Mr. Waugh, I'd like to start at the very beginning of your life. Where were you born?
I have no memory of the event. I'm told it occurred at 11 Hillfield Road, West Hampstead. I believe it's all been demolished now, like most places.
Do you have any memories of that home at all? How old were you when you left it?
Infancy.
So that you don't remember that at all?
Not at all.
Your father was a publisher, was he not?
He was a publisher and a writer, literary critic, minor poet. He liked books and he liked writing. Man of letters, I think, would be the word for him, really.
Was he reasonably prosperous? I mean, how big was the house, for instance?
Oh, well, those days, tiny. Bigger than most people live in now.
Did you have a staff of servants looking after you?
Well, I had a nanny, of course, yes.
Yes, but I don't mean you personally, but the family had a cook and a housemaid,
yes.
And so on, yes.
Gardener.
You've one elder brother.
That's so.
Do you remember him at that time?
My memory's awfully bad. I was, of course, aware of his existence. He was 5 years older than me and always very much more advanced. And when the time I was at prep school, he was at public school. By the time I was at public school, he was in the army and so on. So I really didn't know him at all well until, after the First War.
If your memory is bad, it's quite interesting to ask you if you've got any vivid pictorial memory of those days, of that house at North End.
Well, I have certain pictorial memories because a lot of the furniture is now in my own house, so that I'm constantly reminded of it. And it's awfully hard to know what one remembers oneself or one's been told to remember. I'm told that at the age of 4, I was taken to Hampstead Heath Fair by my father and greatly indulged in all the coconut shies and things, and that when told I must get back for luncheon, I rolled on the ground and shouted, "You brute, you beast, you hideous ass." I was never allowed to forget that as a child, but I've got no personal memory of it.
Do your mother and father stand equal in your memory now, or is your father clearer?
Equal, I think.
Were you rather strictly brought up in the Edwardian manner?
No. No, I had an absolutely lyrically happy childhood. I think that's why I have so few memories of it. Until I went to prep school, I was taught by my mother, and very well taught, I think, in the orders of rudiments. My father was usually out of the house most of the day, and I remember him largely as appearing about bedtime, you know.
Your parents, of course, were not Catholics.
Oh, no.
Did your mother give you religious instruction?
Yes.
Of a simple Anglican,
yes,
broad church view of the world?
They were both pious church-going Anglicans.
Did you accept that when you first remember?
Oh, yes, rather.
And continuously have you taken a religious view of the world?
Certainly up to the age of about 16.
When you were a small child, do you remember dreaming at all?
No. I know I do dream every night of my life, all the time, but dream disappears the moment I wake up.
How old were you when you could first read and write?
I couldn't write fluently till I was 7.
And it was sometime about then that you did write a story, didn't you, or a book even?
I've always found spelling very hard, I do now. But the spelling's very bad. His narrative I was keeping at the age of 7.
Did you tell stories or even enjoy listening to stories very much when you were extremely small?
By extremely small, you mean younger than 7?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yes, certainly. I don't think telling so much, but being read to a great deal.
How old were you when you first wrote a story?
I think 7, 7.5.
Just for the delectation of your family?
But I don't know what the motive was. It was called The Curse of the Horse Race, and it was a warning against the dangers of betting, and it was one of the temptations which my father never at all subject. He was, he's been a racecourse in his life. I had a Calvinist nanny, and I think perhaps she'd tell me something about the danger of horse racing. But it's plain from the story I didn't know anything at all about the technique of the turf.
Had you any consciousness of missing having a sister at that age?
I wasn't missing anything. My life was idyllically happy.
That's perhaps a very slightly trapped question, because I have noticed in one or two of your books, particularly in Put Out More Flags, that there's a very curious brother-sister relation. And I wonder whether this is a problem which has exercised you a lot.
No, you must allow the novelist's imagination to roam more freely than that, you know.
Well, I do. Then to school. Where was your first school?
First school was a day school in Hampstead, where I used to go. It was a school half boarders and half day boys. I was a day boy most of the time. On rare occasions, my parents went abroad, I used to go and board there.
And most of your family went to Sherborne.
My father went there, my elder brother, and he sent his sons there. It's a very curious thing. My father was absolutely miserable at Sherborne and had no memory of it except of terror and cruelty. And he never went back to the school. When it came to sending my brother to school, the first thing he did was put him down to Sherborne.
Well, why didn't he put you down?
He did put me down, indeed. But then my brother, at the age of 17, wrote a book called The Loom of Youth, based on his school days. And so I was blackballed, and they had hasted to find some alternative for me.
Which was Lancing?
Yes, I'm very fortunate.
I was going to ask, no, you don't have any feeling of resentment about that?
No. Sherborne is clearly a more beautiful little old town to grow up in. The thing about Lancing, certainly in my day, was its complete isolation. One might have been living on an island of miles from anywhere. I never saw any other human life except the life of the school.
You have said that you were not particularly happy there.
Have I? Whom to?
Well, you've said it and been reported in public, and you've never denied it, so I take it that you've said it.
Well, I wouldn't like you to think that I was bullied or miserable or anything. The thing is, I went there in 1917, and of course all schools are beastly in 1917. One was always hungry, always cold, chilblains, the corps taking up a great deal of one's time. But then it was rather nice because suddenly life got better and better. Suddenly sweets began to appear and cakes, and all the good masters had been at the war, of course. One had been taught by rather dreary old dugouts, and then the good young masters came back. So one had a sensation of a gradually opening, brightening scene.
Did you form any friendships at Lancing which have lasted you right through to the present day?
Acquaintances.
But not intimate friends?
There's no one I see regularly
No,
nowadays, no.
Were you a conformist at school?
You mean did I obey the rules?
Did you obey the rules and generally toe the line of school conventions?
No, I wouldn't say that. But you see, we were rather strictly brought up and severely punished. In fact, when they do all this talk now about whether beating is deterrent, the one thing which one could do at school which one wasn't beaten for was corps offences. They could only impose military punishments which were very negligible, like defaulters' parade, so that all our high spirits used to be concentrated on making the corps ridiculous. But you had to take jolly good care we didn't play the fool in school or in chapel or in football field or anywhere else.
Talking about chapel, apart from the physical appearance of Lancing Chapel, was the Anglican influence extremely strong in those days?
Yes.
And did you at that time have any doubts about your religious faith?
You'd think it absurd. My doubts began through reading Pope's Essay on Man at the age of about 16.
And
although, as you know, he was a Catholic.
What form did they take?
Well, it was the first time I began to speculate at all metaphysically. Through the notes on Pope's Essay on Man, I was turned on to Leibniz and so on. Through that, the general 18th century Enlightenment. And not in any very sophisticated way, but I began then to question.
Why did you choose to go to Harvard College at Oxford?
They paid me.
You had an open scholarship?
Yes.
In history?
Yes.
Did you subsequently remain a keen historian?
No.
You didn't get, in fact, a very distinguished degree. That's why I asked the question.
I got a bad third, yes.
Why did this happen?
Sloth.
What did you do at Oxford?
Enjoyed myself.
How?
Grew up, you know.
Yes, how?
Well, as one did in those days.
Well, people have forgotten. You tell me.
Getting tight a lot of the time. Entertaining, making new friends. Writing silly little articles for undergraduate magazines, all that kind of thing.
It's said of you, and indeed one would perhaps deduce from your books, that you moved very much in what was then called the aesthetic set at Oxford, which is very different, I think, from your present life. Is that true?
Both those statements are true, yes.
Yes. Have you been conscious of any revulsion against that particular set of people at any stage, or has this been a gradual development?
Oh, no, I'm still a pure aesthete. But in middle life, one doesn't have to dress up in special clothes in order to enjoy architecture, you know.
When you were an undergraduate, did you have enough money?
Well, deeply in debt, of course. You always were.
But you were not resentful or conscious of not having enough money. Your father gave you what you basically needed.
He gave me more than I basically needed, and I spent about twice as much.
When you came down from Oxford, did you have to earn a living at once?
Not at once. It was gradually borne in on me. I always wanted to be a painter, and I went to an art school for a time.
And, but then your father was paying for you.
Oh, yes. And then, of course, the bills were beginning to come in. And eventually there was a kind of debt settlement in which I revealed the state of my indebtedness. It wouldn't seem very much now, but it's quite a lot then. £400 or £500, I think. And so he paid him on condition I earned my living. And I went as a prep schoolmaster, which was the sort of resort for the criminal classes of those days.
And out of which, presumably, Decline and Fall eventually
very remotely.
emerged, yes. Did you get, was Decline and Fall a financial success?
Still is.
Yes, but was it at that time?
Not in the sense that I was immediately rich. It was brought in some money.
I mean, the point is, how old were you when you were first conscious that you could earn a decent living by writing?
I should think 25.
Now, how old were you when you were converted to the Catholic faith?
I think 30.
Had you studied for a long time
just rising there,
before your conversion?
I was under instruction, literally under instruction, for about 3 months. But of course I'd interested myself in it before reading books independently and so on.
I'm quite interested to ask you, because it isn't clear from the book, whether you were almost a Catholic at the time you were writing Vile Bodies.
Not at all. No. I was as near an atheist as one could be, I think, at that time.
Is there, I hope not an impertinent question, is there any connection in your own mind between Father Rothschild in that book and Father Darcy, who afterwards received you to church?
No. No, it's a pure literary convention. I mean, the sly Jesuit has been going on in English novels for 200 years.
Nevertheless, what is a little unexpected, perhaps, in Vile Bodies is what appears to be your obvious sympathy with the sly Jesuit.
I'm surprised you find that. I hadn't any sense of it at the time.
Did you have a sudden revelation which led you to this conversion, or was it a very gradual process?
Well, I think I'd always, when I say always, from the age of 16 or so, realized that Catholicism was Christianity, that all other forms of Christianity were only good so far as they chipped little bits off the main block. It is a conversion to Christianity rather than a conversion to Catholicism, essentially.
Well, this is the point I wanted to bring out. This came after a period when you had lost your faith and you regained it in the Catholic Church. It wasn't, you hadn't been continuously a devout and practicing Christian who moved over to Rome.
No. I think from the age of 16 to the age of 28, I didn't go to church at all, I remember.
Since you were received into the Catholic Church, have you ever seriously doubted?
No.
Never been through a period when
No.
things have been difficult for you? Looking back now...
Well, it's very difficult. I mean, exasperation at the extraordinary behavior of individual clergymen.
Yes, but no, you've never doubted the central canon of your faith, no. Looking back now, what would you say is the greatest gift in terms of tranquility or peace of mind or whatever that your faith has given you?
Well, it isn't a sort of lucky dip which you get something out of, you know. It's simply admitting the existence of God, your dependence on God, your contact with God, the fact that everything in the world that's good depends on Him. It isn't a sort of added amenity of a welfare state that you say, well, to all this, having made a good income, now I have this little icing on top of religion. It's the essence of the whole thing.
You say all that is good in the world comes from God. You don't seem to find very much which is good in the modern world. You've seen it consistently as a decadent world, have you not?
But there's good in a decadent world.
Yes, but your purpose in life is, what, to castigate or to chronicle the decadent world? Do you see a purpose in your books? Are you trying to scourge us into reform?
Oh, no. No, I'm just trying to write books.
Yes, but nonetheless, no one who is as intellectually coherent as you are can write books even just as finished, polished objects without having a certain purpose in mind, I suspect.
Quite unconscious.
What is your favorite book?
One called Helena, no one's ever read. awfully good.
Well, why? Tell me why you like that best.
Well, it's just much the best, you know. It's the best written, most interesting theme.
What in particular fascinated you about Helena? She's an unusual saint.
Yes, that's one of the fascinating things. You see, practically nothing's known about her.
Catholicism in your books does seem very much to be equated with the aristocratic life and so on.
She happened to be the empress. It wasn't the fact of her rank that made her interesting. It was the fact of finding the true cross made her interesting.
Is humility...
If I might continue,
please.
the fact of the true cross was that there was an actual piece of wood, a historical fact behind the gospel. Whether or not the wood she found was the cross, open to doubt. But at that time, all those Asiatic cults, but Gnostics and people, were trying to theorize and symbolize and fine away the simple facts of an actual crucifixion on a piece of wood. And she I represented as being a simple English gal thrown greatly to her disgust into the imperial life, not the least enjoying the high position, and putting her finger at once on what was wrong with imperial Rome at that time, which is they were losing the sense of actuality. That you might indeed say was a didactic book.
Yes. I was going to put this to you because
Yes.
what you've just been saying is
Yes.
highly didactic. Could I ask you some questions now about Pinfold? The question that everybody broadly wants to ask you is how far Pinfold is an account of your own brief illness.
Almost exact. In fact, had we cut down a lot, it would be infinitely tedious to have recorded everything. It's the account of 3 weeks' hallucinations going on absolutely continuously.
And you heard voices.
I heard all these voices. If I'd written down everything the voices said, it would be immensely boring. One had to be selective.
But did they say the same thing to you that they said to Pinfold?
Oh, yes, rather. Again and again and again, day and night.
And there were 3 different kinds of voices, really, who talked to Pinfold. There was the beautiful girl who made appointments with him.
They gradually thinned down, if you remember the book. At first, I conceived that everyone was involved. I was rationalizing it all the time. It wasn't the least like losing one's reason. It was simply one's reason working hard, but on the wrong premises.
Yes. But I wonder why the voices said what they did. I mean, have you any notion
Well,
why
I've
you
always
should,
wondered that.
why you should conjure up this lovely girl who made appointments
No,
with
that
you?
I've always wondered.
And you never kept the appointment?
Half did.
Yes.
You remember the story? Went out to look for her, and she wasn't there.
And then the most odious voices said that Pinfold was a homosexual, a communist Jew, a parvenu, and so on. Were these the kind of hallucinations that you yourself felt?
Oh, yes, those were the voices, exactly.
And in your own life, was it the neighbors who were making these remarks? Because again, if you remember in Pinfold, his neighbors were involved in this persecution.
I've no idea what my neighbours said about me.
But did you feel that your neighbors
No.
were involved? No.
The whole thing was so puzzling. I had to, if you remember, invent the theory of the Broadcasting Society. Your own people were involved.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you in fact a particular deep feeling about the BBC?
No?
Because it comes again into a number of your books, which is why I ask, always in a slightly pejorative context.
Well, everyone thinks they love the BBC, but I don't think I'm more violent than anybody else.
In the life that you've chosen to lead now, you lead the life of a country gentleman, or almost a squirearchic life. Do you get on happily with your neighbours?
But it's not really accurate to say I lead a squirearchic life. I mean, a squirearchic life means sitting on the bench of magistrates and going round cattle shows and that kind of thing. I lead life of absolute solitude.
You don't, in fact, take part in the activities of your
No. I
neighbour.
live in the country because I like to be alone.
Well, now, you have made a very noticeable rejection of life, because this is not true. At one time you lived in the town, you mixed in society, you wrote books about society, and now you've withdrawn completely. Were you conscious of a sudden decision to do that?
It happened about 8 years ago, not suddenly, but I suddenly got bored with I gradually got bored with society. Largely, I think, through deafness. And I can hear you perfectly, and I can hear one person perfectly, but if there's a crowd, I get dazed. But I think it's probably psychosomatic that I don't hear because I'm bored, not I'm bored because I can't hear.
Do you ever reflect on the difference between the sort of life you've chosen now and your own family background?
Very little difference.
Well, is there not? Do you have people to stay with you constantly? Do you still mix in the literary world?
I'm not as hospitable as my father was. He was always having people stay.
And do you miss that or not?
No.
One wonders, this may sound rude, but it genuinely arises out of the things you've said and the things you've written. One wonders whether this is, in some curious way, a kind of charade, that you've decided to assume the attitude of country life, which in your books doesn't seem as if it's entirely natural to you.
It's quite true. I haven't the smallest interest in country life, in the agricultural sense or the local government sense. The country to me is a place where I can be silent.
Are you very sensitive to the criticisms of others, unkind reviews of your books?
I don't think so.
I've often wondered, for instance, at the time in the middle of the 30s when you were assailed by Rose Macaulay and one or two others for being a fascist because you reported the Abyssinian War from the Italian side. Did that upset you or prey on your mind at all?
I wasn't even aware she assailed me.
Well, then that's a very effective answer. Have you ever brooded on what appears to you to be unjust or adverse criticism?
No, I'm afraid if someone praises me, I think what an ass, and if they abuse me, I think what an ass.
And if they say nothing about you at all and take no notice of you?
That's the best I can hope for.
You like that when it happens to you?
Yes.
Why are you appearing in this program?
Poverty. We've both been hired to talk in this deliriously happy way.
Now, you constantly tell people that you're poor, and I don't want to ask you impertinent questions, but you're a great deal luckier than many people because you made something of a fortune before the war, before it was all taxed
Not
away.
a penny. Never saved a penny.
You've
And
never
of course,
saved it.
no honest man has been able to save any money in the last 20 years.
Looking at yourself, because I'm sure you are a self-critical person, what do you feel is your worst fault?
Irritability.
Are you a snob at all?
I don't think.
Irritability with your family, with strangers?
Absolutely everything. Inanimate objects and people, animals, anything.
Yes. Have you, do you remember, if I may put a Catholic question to you out of the Penny Catechism, do you remember the 12 fruits of the Holy Ghost?
I should do, I don't.
Well, they include charity, joy, patience, benignity, mildness.
Yes,
Do you fall short in these?
yes.
Are you ever rude to people, nuns and priests and people in your own faith, or is this a thing you reserve rather for outsiders?
Well, it's never rude to a nun, obviously. I don't think I've been rude to a priest, no. But that's a more respect for authority, not...
It's not a feeling of oneness. It's not being on the inside with him. Do you feel the need to belong to an organization all the time?
Best I can tell you in that way is that I'm much more at ease with fellow Catholics than I am with heathens or Protestants. One has so many basic assumptions in common that there's so much doesn't need saying. And when you're talking to even the most amusing and intelligent heathen, you suddenly find that something you've said has no meaning at all to them.
How high in your scale of virtues do you put the Christian duty of service to others?
It isn't for me to make these scales. My service is simply to bring up one family.
One would think from reading, for instance, the end of Brideshead, that you'd attach a tremendous importance to the abnegation of self and the performing of menial tasks even. Now, is that an illusion? Do you not attach much importance to this aspect of Christian virtue?
Well, of course, enormous importance, but for the people with the ascetic temperament, we aren't all called to be ascetics.
I'd like now to ask you a last question, and I want to go back to Pinfold. Looking back on that mental breakdown that you had then and on your life as you see it, can you see that there's any permanent or conflict or instability, perhaps between the way of life in which you were brought up and the way of life in which you've chosen to live now?
Oh, I know what you're getting at. That Ars Priestley said that in an article. I think I dealt with it in The Spectator. That's what you're thinking of. He wrote it in the New Statesman. I answered in the Spectator.
Well, I was not
Absolutely
particularly
right.
thinking of this, but I was asking you whether you ever have any
No,
fear
no,
that this sort of thing may happen to you
That
again.
poor old priest thought that.